Hi everyone, and welcome back to the BFM webinar. Today we're taking a look at personal finances as we have been doing over the last few weeks on Tuesdays at 12:30. Today we're taking a look at job losses and salary cuts. And to help me with this, we have on the panel today with us Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning, Felix Neoh of Finwealth Management, and co-moderating this with me is Malek founder of filife and BFM Radio, and I'm Roshan, the producer and presenter of Ringgit and Sense. Now, these webinars are, of course, brought to you in collaboration with the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia. Really just getting straight into it. Last week, we saw some numbers come out from Socso that job losses had increased 42% on year in the first quarter. So I think today we're focusing on your options going forward and how to manage the situation. Now, Felix, what's the first thing we should be taking a look at when you're trying to process the situation?
I think one of the risks or the mistakes of doing is to really panic, right? I don't think you want to make a decision out of a panic or fear, right? So the first thing that one should always do is get a better feel in terms of your numbers. Now, what do I mean by that is you can already imagine, right? First things first, you need to understand what kind of cash you have available, right? In terms of cash reserves. So look, for example, in terms of your bank account balances, liquid or almost liquid type of investment assets that you might have, right? Some of your investments might have actually, done quite well in this market situation, surprisingly, right? So that's another area for you to be able to access, right? EPF, is there any type of withdrawal schemes that you might be able to tap on, right? Some people have diligently been topping up the SSPN savings, right? That's another area that you can actually look at. Some people have actually overfunded their insurance policies, right? Because some people might have actually incorporated savings portion into their insurance policy. So what kind of cash value is there in insurance policy and whether or not that's something that is accessible? So when you do that, you have a better feel in terms of the cash or cash equivalents, also called the cash reserves that you have to access. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is to come to grips with in terms of the expenses that you have. So basically look at, your normal type of expenses, food, groceries, monthly subscriptions. I think that's a very good area to look at, right? The subscriptions, be it, your pay TV, your mobile plans, your home internet plans, your club and gym memberships and all that regularly, charged kind of expenses, right? Look at loan repayments, right? Look at other regular commitments that you might have, insurance. There are quite a number of people that we have come across who have actually got very high insurance commitments on a monthly basis. Perhaps now is a good time to review whether or not you should continue to maintain those type of policies, or should you be looking for cheaper alternatives that give you the same type of coverage, right? What about regular savings plans that you might have for investment products, right? Again, these are not essentially expenses, but they are basically taking out from your cash flow, right? So basically understand the cash reserves that you have, cash reserves you have, understand the expenses that you're incurring, right? And what you then do is, first things first, as I mentioned, don't panic. What you want to actually understand is how much or how long, I should say, will the cash reserves last you? So basically take all the cash that you have divided by the expenses. That will give you an idea in terms of how many months can you go on, if you like, right? Without any fresh income, how long can your cash reserves last you, right? And what you should then do is to look for ways, right, to generate income to try and supplement or cover the shortfall as fast as possible. But don't panic. Try and understand that number first.
So essentially, Felix, what we're doing here is we're getting a lay of the land in terms of our financial standing, right?
Exactly.
Because it is easy to panic when you are in a state of unknown, when you don't know how much you have or how much you don't have. You don't have any measurable goals or any measurable benchmarks to manage the situation. Guna, do you have anything to add to this part here about the area of getting to know the landscape you're in?
Roshan, so exactly what Felix said. Now, rather than being panic, we need to be very calm and start thinking about what is the next action we need to take.
So speaking of next actions then, once you have these financial numbers and these expenses, and I mean, Felix, you alluded to calculating how many months of a runway I guess you would have. What is the next step? Guna, could we get into that?
Yeah, Roshan. So the first thing I will say, we need to get to the real priorities, or we call it as we need to develop financial priorities. What Felix has said is you need to list down all your expenses. Once you listed down all your expenses, we can categorize these expenses to three categories. Number one, I will say this is a unavoidable expenses. What do I mean by unavoidable expenses? These are the things we need as a human. We need all these food, home, petrol, transportation. These are very basic, necessary expenses which we cannot do anything about this. But in all of our expenses, there are some optional expenses. Example, maybe you are consuming a lot of outside food. Eating outside is norm for you. Okay, now what you can do is actually you can start cooking at home. You may have two cars, one motorbike. Maybe it's the right time to prioritize whether I need two cars or I only need one car. These are the optional expenses, whereby it depends on us whether we want this or we don't want this. You can decide on this. Okay, number three, these are the expenses which you can eliminate immediately. Number one, gym subscription. You can, if you need an exercise, you can go to a park. You can run. Okay. Astro, maybe Astro is about 80 ringgit to 150 ringgit. Now there's some other options. You can go for Netflix, club membership, online shopping. So these are the things we can eliminate immediately to strengthen our cash flow. And another thing is also you cannot be increasing your liabilities at this moment. Increasing liabilities is going to affect, is going to give a huge impact on the cash flow, Roshan.
So really just taking a look at all the different ways to preserve that cash flow, right? As you have it, because if you've lost your job, you don't have a cash flow at this point unless you have other income coming in from somewhere else. Or if you've got your salary cut, you now need to re-optimize where you allocate your resources at this point. Felix, do you have anything else anything to add into that?
Nothing for this particular section.
Right. So, Guna, you've talked about the not adding on liabilities, but also I guess what Felix was touching on a bit earlier was assets, right? So you've got to take account of your assets at this point. Is there any thoughts on the non-liquid assets, or is it something you just don't bring into the math at this point?
You can bring the assets at this moment. Example, I give you an example. If someone bought the assets, a property about 15 years ago, we bought that property for 100,000. The market value before COVID, the value of the property was 300,000. But at this moment, you cannot sell that property for 300,000. You can sell for 200,000. Looking at this position, how severe is your cash flow? Sometimes it's a good idea also. Since you bought that property for 100,000 and you'd already make about 100% return. So to liquidize that property, it'd be a better idea rather than because you have a severe cash flow problem now. This is the moment where we bought this property. It will be helpful in future. So this is the moment you can liquidize this property. It depends case by case.
All right. Yes, Felix.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where to put my finger. But anyway, the point is I just want to add to what Guna has just mentioned. It is when you understand, the runway, how many months will your cash reserves last you, right? That's what we mentioned earlier. And once you understand, right, how many months you have, then the question becomes, okay, so I have this property, right? I might not be able to sell it at the best possible price, but if I do need to liquidate it, and if there is an offer, even if it's not 300,000, it's going to be 200,000. But because I need that money in 6 months' time or 9 months' time, then that will be an indication for you, right, that you have to actually may need to make that decision to sell at this point in time. But there is good news with the announcements last week, because RPGT and all that will be waived for a short period of time.
Yeah, so I think this is where I think you made the point of separating the liquid assets from the non-liquid assets earlier, Felix.
Yes.
Liquid assets obviously very easy to liquidate. It's with assets like property or cars, for that matter, that things get a bit. They can give you a false sense of security, right? But those assets aren't necessarily. You're not going to be able to convert that into cash ASAP. It's going to take some time. Yes, Malek.
So on that point, just Felix and Guna, have you had any experience or people coming in and saying, can I, so I have my my property, can I get another home equity loan, right? Already, I have a mortgage on it. I paid down, I paid out most of it. I'm down to the last 100,000. The property's worth 800,000. I need some cash, urgently now. I don't have a job and so on. Can I go up, remortgage the property for another couple of 100,000 just to tide me over for the next year, right? And then there is a payment related to that, but you feel that survival is more important right now. What do you think about that, Felix?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you brought up. There are situations where basically the client or the individual may have equity in the property for various reasons. Chief among them will probably because the property was purchased a long time ago, market values have actually gone up, right? So as a result, there might be equity in the property. Now, one of the ways to so-called access the funding would be to refinance the property, right? So you can actually go to the bank, to look for refinancing packages and all that. And some banks, I think, are so-called offering the zero moving cost offers and all that. So those are one way, for you to access more funding should you require, definitely something to consider at this juncture.
But the point about that is that you're increasing your debt again, right? So
correct.
So you have these two things going on, and so
correct.
Like, how should you think about this? Is it kind of like, is it only for people who really urgently need the cash, like cannot live without the cash? Is that something, or is it I have seen on social media platforms people saying, hey, I can do that and invest the money, and use it for investments.
Okay. So yeah. I would not recommend if the idea was to actually take a cash bag, right, for the purposes of investing, simply because when you're investing, you do not know the outcome, right? And we always know that borrowing for the purposes of investing can be a double-edged sword, right? You might be losing money on the principal, right, on the investment itself, and you still have to service the interest, right? But that's where the point that I brought up, the first point, where understanding your runway, the runway that you have financially. So if you know you're going to be out of money in 3 months, 4 months, or 5 months, right, and the likelihood of you being able to secure another equal paying job is going to be quite slim at this juncture, then I would say, pulling the trigger on a loan refinancing, right, a home loan refinancing could be a sensible option at that juncture.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Guna, is there anything you want to add to that point, or shall we just...
Same thing, Roshan. It depends on if their cash flow is very severe, they can't last for 3 months or 6 months, and they need immediate liquid cash. So my suggestion is they can dispose the assets. If they feel that, this is a very, they have sometimes, properties, they have some sentiments, they want to keep these, this is given by my inheritance properties. It can be anything, any other reason. So what they can do, maybe they can refinance. But we have to take note that when they do the refinance, their mortgage payment is going to increase. So we also have to look at their cash flow position, if that is going to burden them or not. So the decision need to be to get some peace of mind at this moment, and liquid cash. That's the priority should be, Roshan.
Right, and if you've just joined us, my name is Roshan Kanesan, and welcome to the BFM Personal Finance webinar. This is happening in collaboration with the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, more commonly known as FPAM, and we're talking today about salary cuts and job losses and options you have going forward and ways to manage the situation. Helping me on this panel today, Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning and Felix Neoh of Finwealth Management. Co-moderating this with me, as usual, Malek Ali, founder of BFM Radio and filife. Right now, gents, let's take a look at the government side of things, because we've seen the government get involved in the last few months with various different initiatives. Now, obviously, we can't go through all of it, but Felix, maybe we could go through some of the things that you want to highlight at this juncture.
Yeah. So after understanding your cash flow position, your cash reserve position, after trying to see how you can actually focus on necessities and try and eliminate optional expenses and all that, then comes, how do you increase your income, right? So one way is look at the perks and benefits that have been made available through the government, by the government. So basically there are the Prihatin packages, for B40, M40, and if you are able to also look through the new packages that was announced, under the Economic Recovery Plan Penjana, right? Where you're talking about tax rebates for parents, who, for the purposes of subsidizing childcare costs. You're talking about the My30 unlimited travel pass, the e-wallets, the free mobile data, and what have you, right? So all of that would help ease, the financial burden a bit, right? Then I think this point has already been spoken quite a lot already about loan moratorium. And I think those who have had concerns about cash flow would have already, opted for that. Now, if the 6 months that has actually been given is insufficient, right, it is always an option for you to go back to those banks and seek, some kind of solution, right, to help you tide through during this period of time. Now, there is also the insurance premium moratorium, right, where you can get up to 3 months, but it's on a case-to-case basis where you have to seek the assistance and the approval from the insurance company, right? Then, of course, EPF also swung into action. So there is the EPF e-Lestari withdrawal scheme, $500 a month for a maximum of 12 months. I think 1 or 2 months have already passed. So, you have a limited period of time that you can actually tap on this if required. The EPF has also reduced the contribution rate for members to 7%. So again, if cash flow was an issue, you could also have tapped on that, right? Now, in the event that you were laid off, right, through a retrenchment, then the question becomes, is the employment insurance scheme, the EIS scheme, right, is it applicable to your situation? And if it is, then you will be able to enjoy some benefits for the next couple of months as well.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, I think the EIS benefits there are a few benefits. The one is that job search allowance. I think it's for a minimum of 3 months, a maximum of 6 based on the assumed salary. They give you a percentage of that to help you in your job search. There's also a reduced income allowance and training fees as well. So these are all part of that. I think if you're a member, if you've been contributing to EIS, and at the minimum of a certain number of years, but it's been 2 years, at least 2 years since it was introduced. Definitely, I know some people who are looking at this. If they've one or two people I know have lost their jobs and they are looking at ways that will help them retrain also. So I think this is very important. Definitely something you should take a look at. And perkeso.gov.my, great resource for anyone who's in this situation. Guna, is there anything you want to add to this point from the government initiatives that we've seen? Is there anything that you want to highlight that Felix hasn't touched on?
Yes, Roshan, there's a lot of government initiative is given to public. My message is make sure whatever benefit is given, you use it prudently. If we're going to continue with the same exact lifestyle which we had when we had the job, then it's going to be difficult. There's no point on the benefits which you received. So the word prudent should be given some emphasis after this.
Yes, Malek.
And following up from our seminar last week, don't get scammed, because there's a lot of government things. You'll get a lot of emails, a lot of WhatsApp messages and SMS messages saying, "Oh, apply for this scheme, apply for that scheme," and so on. Best, I think, the advice that we had last week was best to go to the source, and for example, if you're going for the EIS, go to the EIS website directly rather than going through a link or anything like that. Just make sure that you are not duped by sort of all this shenanigans that are going on.
Yeah, and I think just to echo what Felix brought up earlier about that, don't panic. So last week during the webinar, we talked about how scammers usually use your emotions against you, whether it's your greed or your fear or your anxiety, to stop you from thinking about what you're about to do. So a lot of times they use that urgency against you. Or you can get this, you have to do it within a certain amount of time. These are all things to take stock of. Don't rush into anything, especially if you're not sure about it. And this obviously speaks a lot to the emotional element of the situation we're in. This is not if you've seen your salary cut, it is very demoralizing. And if you've lost your job, it is very scary. And this speaks to the emotional situation of everything in this current situation. Guna, how would you, based on your own experiences with clients, how would you recommend managing this situation? Because it's not easy.
Yes, Roshan, this is the most, I will say, toughest situation. The first thing I will say, we need to forgo our financial ego. We call it, what is financial ego? The car we drive today, the place we live in, the education institution our children are going in, the place we have our coffee, the brand of our clothes, the countries we travel for holiday, all these are actually partially our identity or image, which we have built throughout the years. It's not an easy task to lower your lifestyle, but what I'm trying to say is it's the time to reflect back. Can we go for something lesser than before? These changes is actually involve our ego, our dignity, and what is the perception the society have on us. So it's going to be very difficult for us to go and settle for something lower. However, what I'm trying to say is you need to look beyond all this in order to ensure our financial security and sustainability is given importance. So I just want to give you all three real case study from my client. So number one, he's a director. He lost his job about 2 months ago, and actually he decided he wants to take a break from this hectic lifestyle, and he wants to become a Grab driver. So from a director, he wants to go as a Grab driver. So if he did not let go his ego, I'm a director, can I become a Grab driver? It's going to be very difficult for him to do this job. And he said, no, these are the skill I have. I can drive a person from one point to another point safely. I can bring that person safely to another point. So he said, no, it's okay. It's, as long as it's a decent job. And number two, I have a very good friend. She's from a financial sales industry. So what she did is she started an online biryani. She took well. So she looks. What is the strength she has? She told me this. Guna, it's better to use your skills and be productive rather than letting the problem overtake you. It's very inspiring. And number three, this is I had a unit in Cal Central, an apartment, and I was looking for a real estate agent. And then I got connected with this real estate agent, and I was chit-chatting with him. Then I asked him, how long already you are being a real estate agent? He said, just 2 months, sir. I got a shock. 2 months. And then he said, oh, what you were doing before this? No, sir, I was a tour guide. And I lost my job, sir. I don't think so I will get my job in coming next 1 or 2 years. The travel industry have impacted badly in this pandemic. So he said, he told me this. He said, sir, I only know to talk. So I was looking for a job which I can talk more. So you see, in real estate agent, you need to talk. So he looks for the strength inside him, what he have actually developed so far in their industry. So what I'm trying to say is actually, first thing, let go your financial ego. Number two, engage in income generating activities to recover. So for this, you need to identify what is your strength. So far, if you are in the industry, in the working industry for past 10 years, there's something is your strength. So utilize your strength to generate revenue. This is a financial survival. We are already in financial survival. So we have to sacrifice things. That's all, Roshan.
Yes, Malek. Sorry, Malek, can't hear you.
I'm picking up some questions from Facebook right now. So let's for example take up this first question from a guy called KH Wong. Can we? I guess what he's saying is that he understands some of your some of the how to cut expenses, but the Netflix and all that. But I guess he's looking for something more because I think what other kind of expenses can be cut, because those things seem to be quite small. Have you, for example, Felix and Guna, have you seen anyone make the decision? They might have sent their kids to private school. Have you seen anyone make the decision to pull their kids out from private school into normal school? Is that an easy process? Meaning, can you apply for government school after that almost immediately? Have you seen situations like that?
I take that question, Malek.
Yeah.
So personally, one of my clients, they pulled out from the international school, because once they, if you think about the ratio of the expenses, international school expenses can take about 30% of your income, sometimes 20 to 30% of your income. If you don't do this decision, pulling out the children from the international school, it's going to be very heavy for them. But the problem here is not the pulling out the children, it's the emotional damage you go through. This is what they need to manage. Rather than looking from the finance side, they need to look at the emotional damage, because the children also is going to go through some difficulties moving to government school. But in some point of time, it's going to benefit them.
I think I just want to add to that. It really also depends on how far gone or how far down your kid has already gone through the international school route compared to the kebangsaan. The truth of the matter is that if you're too far down the road, to make that switch, that transition is going to be very challenging. Why? Because if you look at the emphasis of international school versus kebangsaan school is very different. Just talk about our national language. You already have very big discrepancy, right, in terms of the ability to actually have a grasp on the national language for international school students versus the kebangsaan, right? So going down that path, is, I would say, an option that is probably better to consider if your child's still very young. But if they're very far down the path, then my suggestion would be, if you can't afford the international schools, right, consider the learning centers, right? Because the learning centers, some, not all, because they have actually been increasing in price as well, right? But some of them still are quite reasonable. There are some other, private schools that have actually started offering international syllabus, and they are not too, heavy or hefty in terms of pricing as well. So those are the other options that you can also consider, right? And if I may just segue a little bit on, what other big expenses can you cut back on to be able to, make a more meaningful change from a cash flow perspective? I would just want to bring up this point about, insurance expenses. We have actually had many instances of clients who, for various reasons, ended up with premium expenses that are very high, right? Well above, the 15% of cash flow or income, I should say, 15% of income kind of ratios that we normally would recommend, right? Below 15%. There are some who have got way beyond that. And those are the ones I would say, that can actually help you save a lot of money if you were to, you know, really do a proper analysis in terms of what do you have, what do you need, and therefore, you know, are there any better type of policies that you can actually consider?
Yeah, actually, that's very complex. It's quite a complex area because you need to know the minute details and the fine details of your
Exactly.
And I think for that, I
Exactly.
would definitely ask for, you know, kind of like ask for some help from financial planners or something like that. Because,
And yeah, may I just add, you know, something, you know, because what we have actually covered so far is, you know, very financial in nature. But the truth of the matter is, in actual fact, it's very personal, right? Because we're dealing in personal finance. So, you know, if you actually have, you know, you need someone to talk to from, you know, in an emotional standpoint or whatever, look for, you know, people such as the befrienders who are able to give emotional support, or if you are in, you know, a lot of loan kind of a scenario, AKPK is a good go-to, you know, party that you can actually get that. And like what Malek was saying, truth of the matter, and I hate to say it, you know, because it's a little bit self-serving, but truth of the matter is, this is where the role of a licensed financial planner comes in, right? Because the difference is when you have someone, right, who has good knowledge of your financial situation, right, prior to whatever that's going on now, and then this thing happens, right, you've got your numbers, you've got someone that you've been speaking to prior to all of this, and that is that someone who is able to help you weather the storm. Otherwise, you might feel that you're doing it alone.
Yeah, I do know. I do know. Unraveling your insurance policies and all that is a very complex task. And I think, you know, and sometimes when I speak to colleagues or friends who have these insurance policies, you really need to spend 2-3 hours going through it, right, with them and so on. It's not so easy. So recommend that, and doing it yourself is already, is already hard enough. I think a lot of us don't know what insurance policies we have.
Exactly.
It's already hard enough to unravel it, right? So, you know, you don't know how much you are owed back, etc., etc., etc. Okay, good. Another question, I guess, that we have, I think there's something about EIS. The KH Wong again says, I was laid off last year, and again, I was laid off again last month. KH, our sympathies. You know, two in a row is not a fun thing to go through. But I'm not entitled for the second time. I think, yes, I think I've read somewhere in EIS that is the case. It's quite, you know, you need to, you know, it's not a recurring, I mean, you know, when it happens the second time, I remember reading something along those lines, and that's just the way things are at the moment, I guess. Now it's a couple of things. If my contract ended earlier this month, would I be able to apply for EIS for my allowance for job search? I think you should have a look at the EIS. I think we sent out a link on the EIS thing. Have a look at the details. I remember going through this before. In terms of EIS, you really need to go through the details. You know, for example, has your employer contributed to EIS? Have you contributed to EIS? I think that was implemented about 2 years ago, and you know, most of us in our second year of contributions, you need to look at the details and see whether you can fit into that. Here's another one, which is interesting. If my pay is cut and I'm offered VSS or retrenched, what avenues can I seek legal employment advice? You know, I guess you're talking about, you know, sort of you know, I guess you know, sort of industrial relations type thing. This is interesting. Industrial courts, do they operate in a vacuum, meaning that they don't care about what the economy is, etc.? They just follow the law, or do they actually take this into account, that basically this has happened and so on? I guess we'll find out in a year or two when all these cases come through, right? Any thoughts on that? Either, or is a topic that's very, very legal?
Yeah, I think you know, it's now in the whoever in the business, they are also in difficult situation. So the government has to look at the both sides actually, Malek. You know, when they are difficult situation, these companies cannot pay salary. They are also in you know, cannot breathe. So it's going to take some time to get some solution on this. I think, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, and other ones. Yeah. So yeah, there's some, and just other comments. I think those are the comments so far. So Roshan, on to you next.
Great. All right. So if you've just joined us, welcome back to the BFM Personal Finance webinar. My name is Roshan Kanesan. I'm the producer and presenter of Ringgit and Sense. And these webinars are done in collaboration with the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, AFPAM. And today we're taking a look at salary cuts and job losses. And helping me with this panel today, we have Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning and Felix Neoh of Finwealth Management. Co-moderating this with me as usual, Malek Ali, founder of BFM Radio and filife. Gents, now we're taking a look at essentially going forward, unless other questions come up later from the audience. Right now, there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for jobs. I think that's going to be the state of play at this point. We've seen a lot of, we've seen retrenchment in media, we've seen it in the travel industries quite a bit. What are some of the, I guess, when you're starting to look for a job, I know this may sound simplistic, but how do you start? I think there may be a lot of young people who've been laid off in this time as well.
I think the first thing you really need to do is so-called updating your CV. So for many people, the CV has actually not been updated for years. So do ensure that you update your CV, but make sure that you're very honest about it, right? Because there are many employers out there who basically are going to be quite spoiled for choice in terms of talents that are available, and they will screen through everything that you put in over there. So you make sure you put very honest experience and all that kind of things that you have got, right? So update your CV and then basically send the word out. So obviously you're very familiar in terms of job sites and all that, but I think it's really already happening very often, becoming the norm almost, that we use social media to also send out, or be plugged into people who are actually posting job postings, vacancies on LinkedIn and what have you, right? But this is also a chance for some people, right? Depending on the industry you're in, this might be a chance for you to ask this question: is this the right time for you to switch careers, right? Maybe you've actually found yourself in a little bit of a rut, right? And then you want to switch a career, right? So maybe this is the right time for you to do that. And one way to actually do it with more confidence is to upskill yourself, right? So I think Roshan, just now you've mentioned very briefly about the training allowance. I believe if I read it correctly, again, the devil's in details, so you actually need to discover a little bit more. But as I understand it, there is a 4,000 ringgit training allowance that's given under the EIS scheme. And if I read it correctly, it does not really matter whether or not you are a contributor to the EIS. But please double check on the details. But the idea here is see what you can actually tap in terms of free training, right? Now, if that is not available, right, through the EIS, then consider the massive open online course route, the MOOC route, if you like, because there are many courses that are being made available, right, for either a very small sum or almost free, right? And if this is an area, or this is the course that will help you so-called leapfrog, right, or skill up, if you like, to a different, kind of a sector, right, one that you feel is more in tune with whatever's going on in the economy, then now is a good time to actually do this.
Yeah, I think Coursera is offering Malaysians up to 3,800 courses till the end of the year if you're unemployed. I think this is something that they're doing in collaboration with MDEC, the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, as part of their My Digital Workforce initiative. And I've explored Coursera myself out of curiosity, and there are very interesting courses there. So if you have recently become unemployed, I would highly recommend you take a look at the courses available and see if there's anything that you can add to your CV there. Sorry to interrupt you there, Felix. What else should I be looking at?
I think these are the main areas that you want to actually focus on when you're talking about moving up. And just to link back to what I had actually mentioned earlier, this is the so-called slightly longer term plan, right? But as what Guna had also mentioned, now is not the time to be very fussy. Now is the time to really try and find something to be able to plug the gap, right? So if your dream job doesn't matter. Start with something. You can actually also leverage on, for example, the gig economy, or can you do something online in your spare time, something that's not in conflict with your regular day job, right? Start somewhere. Start to establish or create more income streams rather than to be 100% dependent on one. And should that be taken away, that's when you find yourself in a little bit of a pickle, right? So what you should be actually doing, right, is also to diversify your income streams, right?
So this is essentially tapping into your skill set. I think Guna, one of the examples you used in your case study earlier was the tourism agent who then became a real estate agent.
Tourist guide.
Sorry, tourist guide. And his understanding of his strength was very important, right? That his ability to speak, ability to talk, and how you can, I guess, laterally translate that into another field is very important. I think that applies for skills as well in the freelance world. If you can look up Facebook groups, I think there are plenty of Facebook groups that look into side gigs and freelance opportunities. I'm sorry that I don't have them off the top of my head at this point. But this is another way to explore. It's those Facebook groups with the side gig opportunities and freelancing. Guna, is there anything you want to add on this?
Yes, Roshan. If you look at the last statistics given by the government, there's no interest from the youth for the 3D jobs. What they mean by 3D jobs is dangerous, difficult, and there's another word for
dirty.
Dirty. Yeah, exactly. Dirty. I think there's a lot of job opportunities which is available in the market. The only thing, as Felix said, you cannot be looking for your dream job. I know a graduate from a local university. He become a carpenter. And recently I stay in PJ Old Town. There's a big market, PJ Old Town market. And they are looking for 200 people who can work in the market. And the salary they're providing is about 2,000 with EPF and Socso. So, ordinary person, if you own a vegetable groceries in the shop in the market, you can earn about 5,000 to 6,000. So it's a very decent income. But are we willing to do this 3D job? So if you ask me personally, the opportunities is there. Is the mindset need to be changed.
I remember seeing the front page of one of the newspapers recently. I can't remember whether it was Star and ST, and it was a trainer, a gym trainer who was working in the market. I think it was Tamatun market. And essentially this, again, I guess, ties back into the financial ego part as well as your identity, especially if you've been doing something for a very long time, whether you can make that change in that area. But I guess when push comes to shove, if you're facing a crunch, you will do what you need to do to get the opportunity to take the job, to maintain that the cash flow, and upskilling. Actually, on the upskilling point, so I think there are a lot of people who may have been in the oil and gas field a few years ago, and we've seen the oil and gas field really change. Jobs have already been lost; it's been disrupted significantly, and they might be looking to maybe not just upskill, but do a master's program online or something like that. Is this something that you've seen yourselves in your own clients where after 5 years, 10 years of working, they've decided that they want to go back to study to kind of pivot their careers? Is this a feasible option?
I think it's relevant in some industries. I do have a client who was in the oil and gas industry, and what she then did was she actually took a master's program, and she's now into the environmental, sector in that sense. Doing all the environmental tests and all that kind of things. So it's slightly different, but still an offshoot of an engineering kind of a field in that sense. So it is actually possible.
Right, and I guess also you have to take into consideration the cost of doing the course as well. But this is not
this happened prior to MCO.
I think master's programs, depending where you're doing it, can cost tens of thousands of ringgit. Yes, Malek.
Yeah, I think the difficulty, I think I've experienced at least four recessions before. And the difficulty is that the demand and supply mismatch during recessions, right? So during times when times are okay or normal, roughly normal, when you have this sort of situations that happen to you personally, there's still jobs out there and so on. It's when times like this happen and suddenly you have a crush of jobs getting less and the number of unemployment getting high and number of applicants getting higher. I think that's the difficulty, right? The difficulty of timing. And I think this is where I think it's maybe a little it's not so comforting for people to say, you know, hey, it's it's something which you know, you should apply for this job, that job, because you know you'll be a part of many people who are doing that, right? So is there but I guess that's the reality, right? I can't sugarcoat, we can't sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, you'll get a job tomorrow just like that, right? I know some of you know that I'm based in Singapore, and I do know that, for example, there are new jobs that have opened up here, and for example, doing swab testing, right? Having more resources towards migrant worker facilities, people going out and becoming sort of, people who do swab testing and all that, putting a little bit of your risk, a bit of the DDD, right? Putting a bit of your risk and things like that. So that jobs like that happening. Have you heard anything in Malaysia about those kind of jobs that are created by or needed, required, created by the health ministry, thing like that? Have you heard anything along those lines? No. Okay, that's
not directly, but you do know that some public listed companies have actually pivoted towards this path, right? And the minute they put something health or glove or whatever, suddenly the share price goes up, right?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I think so yeah, I guess the only thing I say is have a look out for those kind of emergency jobs, right? If you're out of a job right now, right? So because I think the grabs and the food delivery it's everyone's trying to do that too, so it can be quite hard. I just want to give one anecdote, but I was lucky. This was not the time of recession, but I remembered whilst before starting BFM, whilst I was sort of haggling with the regulators about getting a license and so on, submitting my applications and all that, I actually part-timed as a real estate agent during that time. So doing this whilst waiting for the license application to go through. So, and sometimes you're right. It's a lessons in humility, because here I am, a Harvard MBA, kind of like looking for property for everyone under the sun, right? Some were great, some treated me like just another thing. So it's like, oh, very, very painful, but there we are. We have to do what we have to do.
That is very true. And if you've just if you've just joined us today on the BFM Personal Finance webinar, we're taking a look at job losses and salary cuts. And as have been the previous webinars, this is brought to you in collaboration with the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia. And helping me today, Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning, Felix Neoh of Finwealth Management, and co-moderating this with me, Malek Ali of filife and founder of BFM Radio, so as well as he's just made known again. Yes, Malek.
Quick question, Felix and Guna, what's your thoughts on people? I've seen some of this during recessions where people say, I've lost my job, I can't find anything else. I have a particular expertise. I think I'm good at this. I want to start a business in this area. What do you say to those folks that want to kind of like start a business during these times?
I would say if you feel that that's the right thing for you to do, then please start with as little capital as possible. Best things first is test drive that path first. That means if you want to go and open a cafe, don't open a cafe yet. Work in one first, right? Look for a friend. I'm sure you have a friend who must be in the cafe business. Otherwise, it will not have dawned on you to go into this path, right? Work work the front line in the cafe business or whatever. Test drive it out first before you actually commit, because there are quite a number of businesses out there that requires huge initial capital, right? And if you're testing it out, you might not want to do those just yet, right? And make sure that either you have the expertise or your partner has the expertise. Otherwise, if both of you are going to hire expertise, then that's going to get you into a little bit of trouble, perhaps, in the future.
I mean, worst case scenario, one of you needs to be able to operate the espresso machine if the
exactly, yeah.
And I used to work at a cafe, and I can tell you this was a serious consideration from the founders. You always have to have preparation, and talking about capital intensive, Felix, one of the biggest concerns is you have to have enough money to buy another machine if anything happens to your current machine, because that's your concentration risk in the business. Guna, I think you wanted to add something there.
Yes, Roshan, and so like if they want to open a cafe, some cafes, the business have increased. They go to online. So we at this moment we cannot say business will become failure, but they also have to make sure that the emergency fund is available in case the business is failed. Then is there any fund for them to rely on? So the plan is important before they enter into any business. If the husband and wife, that means they are married, husband wife, and husband said, I want to open a business, then the wife should hold the whatever job she has, at least to support the family. So these are the risk management part on the finance, what they can plan out for before they take the risk.
Right, and just pivoting quite significantly, I guess, from that point, I want to talk about the lessons that we can learn from this in general. I think it's very clear to see that things like salaries, jobs for that matter, are not a given. I think the last 10 years since, because we weren't as affected by 2008. So for Malaysians, I think the biggest thing was 1997. So the last 20 years has really seen that growth in many areas. It may not have been the most fantastic growth in the world, but stability and that jobs were, that things just kept going, right? And we've seen a significant disruption in Malaysia, in the world, with the COVID-19 pandemic. Guna, what are some of the key lessons that you would like people to really pay attention to and learn from what we've experienced over the last few months?
Okay. The first one, Roshan, I will say that importance of liquid asset. Only today we have realized that how important is the liquid asset. Liquid assets means it's not your unit trust investment, your stock, or your insurance. Liquid asset means either it is in the fixed deposits, or in the saving account, or in the money market. Because at this moment, all the investments assets, their value is actually they are lower about 20 to 30%, including properties. So liquid assets is very important, very essential in the moment of recession. So importance need to be given to liquid asset. Number two, financial planning is not optional anymore. It's essential. We are also listed in the Security Commission's, according to the Security Commission, we are already in the essential services. So I will say financial planning is only for people who have wealth. No, either you are a B40, you are a M40, you are a T20, financial planning is essential for everyone. Number three, this is very important, lifestyle inflation. I call this as the silent killer, you know why? Only at this moment, we have realized how much lifestyle inflation or lifestyle have increased ourselves. Only at the difficult moment, we can realize this. When there's a lot of cash inflow is coming in, we are willing to spend. We buy car, we buy house, we buy a membership, golf membership, so we can spend. But at this moment, we have realized, country has inflation, I understand, but this lifestyle inflation is a silent killer. It comes with you without any indication. So you have to take care of your lifestyle inflation. The moment your salary is increasing, you cannot be keeping up increasing your expenses together. And the last message I want to give today is maybe this webinar might not break your ego, but coronavirus can break your ego, your financial ego.
Felix, is there anything you want to highlight at this point?
I would say that based on my observation, between clients who have got a financial plan or have a plan, working with a licensed financial planner versus those who are not. When situations like this happens, the ones who don't have a licensed financial planner are really, really scrambling, right? Simply because they are suddenly hit with this. It's like, hit by a bus, right? What are you going to do when you're hit by the bus? Whereas for those who are actually engaging a licensed financial planner, they already have a financial plan on hand. They already know what are their expenses. They already know what's their income. They already know what's their so-called surplus on an annual basis. So even if, for example, there is a pay cut, right? First things first, they will just check, oh, it's within my cash surplus. So, okay, I'm still going to be fine, right? Whereas if you don't have all of your numbers on hand and something like this happens, that's when you get into this panic mode, right? And, I just want to bring up the point that Malek brought up earlier, which is when you are in this panic mode, and that's when, right, you feel the need to do something drastic because something drastic has happened. So you need to go and do something drastic, and that's when you become such a magnet for scams, right? In your desire to basically try and fix the situation that you find yourself in, you actually end up being very vulnerable towards scams. So you really need to make sure that you avoid all of that. And one of the things that we've actually mentioned is that with MCO and all that, suddenly there are a lot of so-called experienced people, gurus, right, who have actually surfaced and suddenly offering a lot of courses and all that kind of things. You do have to also check out their credentials, right? Hopefully they have actually been in existence and have actually been doing this prior to MCO, and not just suddenly surfaced during the MCO period, right?
Right, and Malek, is there anything you want to highlight before we wrap up this this webinar?
I think every financial crisis will leave its battle scars. I remember the '97 crisis left me with a very, very important lesson. And I was out of a job, out of a business at that time, and I think it actually, although I'm a very high risk individual, right? I start businesses and all that. After the '97 crisis, I always said I needed to create a safety net all the time. So that was my lesson from the '97 financial crisis: create your own personal safety net. Put it aside and make sure that that's rock solid, and then you can invest in other high risk business like BFM, like filife and all that. You can invest those because you know that your basics are covered, right? So I think that was my biggest lesson from '97. I hope that, I guess, for this generation of us suffering from this COVID-19 crisis, we learned some of our lessons from here as well. Going forward, if you're in your 20s, actually, it's a good time to learn, right? If this is your first, if you're 50 something and this is your first lesson and you didn't learn anything from '97, you didn't learn anything from 2008, good luck to you, But if you're in your 20s, like you, Roshan, and you're going through this and you see this and you still have energy and time to recover, it's actually a very good thing to go through. You will form your financial, I guess, your baseline for the future, to always not assume that everything's rosy.
Yeah, I think some of the most important things I've learned, especially, it highlighted more than ever the importance of, we've talked about this earlier, but cash reserves, knowing what your monthly expenses are, so that you can do that easy calculation of how long your money can last you, where your assets are. I think that's really important. Just getting a spreadsheet out and just having, even if it's cash or cash equivalents, you should know where that money is. So at any one point, you've at least got a rough ballpark of how long you can last. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Just risk management. Earlier, before this, you always have this idea of growth, or how can I increase my income? How can I do this? How can I do that? But when you go through something like this, you start thinking about, oh, wait, hold on, where are my risk areas? What areas am I at risk of losing income, or what expenses are bleeding me a bit more? You start trying to balance the portfolio a bit more, if I guess you get what I'm saying. But on that note, thank you everyone for joining us today on this BFM webinar. I hope it was very helpful to everyone. I hope we managed to get to most of the questions there. Now, my name is Roshan, Kanesan, the producer and presenter for Ringgit and Sense. Joining me today to help me with this, Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning and Felix Neoh of Finwealth Management, co-moderating this with me, Malek Ali, founder of BFM Radio and filife. This was a BFM Personal Finance webinar in collaboration with the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia. Thank you everyone for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us today.